All right. Okay, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Keeping It Real with Shane Recker. I'm excited because I have two guests with me today. This is my first time interviewing two people at the same time. And the cool thing is they have a really cool story. I mean, I'll let them share, but I have Betsy and Laura Milne. Am I saying that correctly?
You totally are.
Yeah. And you guys are totally not related. You did not know each other before you started your business, and you guys have the same last name. So that's pretty fun. The universe just kind of did that. It's just divine. I love it. So I'd love to hear from you guys before we dig into some questions and talk about being an entrepreneur and what does all that stuff mean. How did you guys get started? How did you meet? How did this all happen?
So do you want me to start, Betsy?
Go for it.
So I slid into Betsy's Instagram DMs way back in 2016 before anybody was DMing anybody ever. Because I've noticed in the last 6 months, like DMing on Instagram is like,
like even that statement sliding into your DM, it's like actually becoming like a statement. Like a statement.
Yeah. No, I was sliding into DMs before that was a term, and I was just that one weirdo reaching out to people who I thought were interesting on Instagram. And I came across Betsy's profile, and I liked her profile, but then I was like, whoa, she has the same last name as me. That never happens. There's like 14 Milnes on the surface of the planet. I don't know. Maybe there's more, but and so we just struck up a friendship, and then that was about spring or early summer 2016. Mm-hmm. And then Betsy, I was still doing my network marketing business full time. Betsy was doing health coaching. And then like December, literally 2 weeks before like the end of the year, she phoned me one day. We'd been talking back and forth, like building our friendship. And she said, "Do you want to start a podcast with me?" And I was like, "Sure." I don't even listen to podcasts. Don't have what that's going to look like, but why not? Yeah. And so then we literally launched 2 weeks later, January 4th.
I love that.
2017. And the rest is history. We were Lucious Living podcast at that time. And then we did some soul searching, and we really niched down in a very organic way over time, and then became Lucious Hustle podcast and became a coaching and branding business. And I mean, it has really, the things that have manifested out of a single DM on Instagram are pretty wild. Yeah. And we actually realize now, like, Betsy can explain this better, but we actually realize now we have a soul contract with each other. I don't know if you're familiar with soul contracts. It's kind of like a uber woo-woo word.
I love the uber woo-woo stuff. So
yeah,
you're going to have to expand on it.
So the back end story that we figured out way, way later is that actually before 2016, on May 22nd, 2015, she and I both did a journal entry like to the universe, and basically ended up manifesting each other like a full year before we had ever met. So May 22nd, 2015 was the night before my daughter was born. And I was literally like, my husband was like, "We are scheduled to go to the hospital. You are being induced. Let's get in the car." And I was like, no. I have a few more goals I want to journal out right now.
Oh my God.
And I literally, the thing I was writing in my journal was that I was really stuck in my life, and I wanted to create something completely new for myself. And I wrote that I wanted to find a way to connect and talk to interesting women and drink tea all day long from home and make money doing it. And I had no idea what that meant or what it would look like, or I knew nothing of the how. It was just, that's what I want my daily life to look like. And 3,000 miles away, a complete stranger who also has the last name Milne was manifesting, and she signed up for health coaching and set her own course on fire. And so really from there, the rest is history.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And Betsy, what's your sort of take on that? Like your sort of side of the story? What happened?
So like Laura was building a family, and I was at the opposite end of the spectrum. Like when I sat down and was like, I need to make a change in my life, but I have no idea what that looks like. All I knew was that I needed to heal myself first, and the rest of it would fall into place. So it was really funny. So I was I was severely depressed. I was overweight. I was doing all the things that were energetically draining, still working in New York City, traveling all over the world for business. And I was just like, I'm done. Like, I can't sustain this on any level. And the cool thing about our story is, when Laura, I had been doing my health coaching training. I was almost done. I was almost certified. I already had clients actually when we met. But the cool thing about Laura was, like I was living in a place of sheer fear of putting myself out there and building a brand. And when Laura slid into my DMs, I only answered her because she had the same last name. And we've talked about this a lot. Like soul contracts are things that, contracts that you make with yourself. So the lessons that you are to learn while you're on this earth. So it can be specific people, they can be soul contracts with yourself. And so for me, I realize now looking back, like she had to have the same last name for me to reach out to her, to respond. Yeah. Because I needed to feel safe. Like I was still in a very wounded state. So, you know, it's just the universe hands you what you need if you're willing to look for the signs, is what we believe. Yes. And I mean, I lucked out in the business partner, friend, long lost, whatever you want to call her. Like, I mean, I don't even know how we manifest. Like I still to this day, I'm just like, oh, thank God I paid attention.
Well, and you did, because you were looking for something, you just like, you didn't know what, and you needed the sign, the last name to be able to do that. That's how I believe like it works. Like sometimes the universe knows that we need to add something to this to make sure that she sees it, you know? Yeah. And to get it. Oh my God. I love that. And so I want to touch on a couple things here, because, the audience that, you know, I speak to generally are network marketers who are, I feel like network marketing is a platform for us to dabble, to try to put ourselves out there as an entrepreneur without having to really fully like, you know, start a business from scratch. And so Laura, you mentioned that you started with network marketing, and would you say that this has been that was a platform for you to kind of get, you know, interested into becoming an entrepreneur? Did that come through?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I always call network marketing my gateway drug to entrepreneurship. And yeah, because in the beginning I really didn't know. And, but I felt really, I really loved the product I was working with, and I was taking it anyways. So it kind of made sense to make that leap and build it as a business. Yeah. And I think, you know, a lot of things started sparking in me as I got going. I was already a personal development junkie, and and so that piece fit in for me, because network marketers, we are personal development junkies, right? And then it's just a matter of taking that personal development and really actually transforming your life. But for me, and I love network marketing. I think it is a fantastic platform. I do think that is really rapidly changing, even from when I first started a few years ago. At that time, you know, you could be rah, my company, rah, my team, and just put out the product, just like vomit the product all over social media. And that actually did have traffic.
In the beginning, it worked.
You could get traction doing that. And that was fine. But that has really drastically shifted, even starting a couple of years ago. And that's really part of why we do the business that we do now, because whether you are with network marketing, or maybe you're not, maybe you're an artist, maybe you're a creative, you're just completely different. Everyone needs a personal brand. Yeah. Everyone needs a personal brand and needs to really align your personal mission and your higher purpose in life with what it is that you're doing with your work. Yes. And that's to us, like we call our Lucious Hustlers our soulful entrepreneurs. They're really aligning their core purpose in life with the work that they're putting out in the world. And then those two things, it creates like an open energy exchange.
Yeah, I love that.
And you just spiral up and gain in abundance and grow as a person so much faster when you tap into that.
I love that. Yeah. And I found, like, I know for myself, because I started in network marketing as well. I was a graphic designer, then started in network marketing, and then started this business. And I realized, like, I think what happens is a lot of times we attach ourselves to our network marketing company. And I learned through my business mentors and the coaches that, no, you're an entrepreneur. Yes. And part of what you do is network marketing, and you can also have other things. And I think that's important for us to recognize as network marketing entrepreneurs, or entrepreneurs in general, that we are business people. Like, we're business people first, and then these are the things that we do, because I truly believe in multiple streams of income. I think that having multiple businesses or having different things, you know, hands in different things is a good idea. And so Betsy, how did you get from, working, it sounds like maybe you working corporate and then you moved into being an entrepreneur. How did that look for you?
So I actually started my first business at 24. I had a t-shirt company with my sister where we hand dyed all the t-shirts. I did all the screen printing. We were selling in local spas and online in 2005. We had our first online store, and just the market back then was changing. There was testing that was coming into the world. So my sister and I had a fight, really. Grown up. The business dissolved. I went back to New York City and I basically picked a job that ticked all the boxes. Everything that I wanted to learn that I didn't know how to do in my business, I found the job that ticked all those boxes. Happened to be in the garment center, which I had been obsessed with. The Devil Wears Prada. I wanted to be there. I wanted to be going to fashion shows. And I really manifested like my quote unquote dream job where, pick up and fly out of the country with 24 hours notice. The downside of that was I also manifested all the bad stuff, right? But what was really cool about my job is like, I call it a corporate job, but I was working for a small business and I was working with large corporations. So really I was building a business within a business, the private label division. So my entrepreneurial journey is like, I don't know, I guess I'm like 15 years in now for the most part. And so Laura and I started, like she's my upline. And so I got into network marketing and I have 2 product partners that I work with. I am so the opposite. Like when I got into network marketing, I was just like, well, I'm using the product and I just want to recommend it. And I was being given like this duplicatable business model. And I'm like, but it doesn't fit with me. So I always really struggled in that model because I had already spent like 10 years of my life building something from scratch. Yeah. So, I think that if somebody's listening to this and you're like, why is my network marketing not working? It's a product partner. That's how I view it. And it is something that I use every day anyway. So, if I'm going to recommend it to people, I think that energy exchange is perfectly okay. And that's how I view it. It's another revenue stream for our business. I just like to talk about it. I'm going to use them no matter what. And it fits into my lifestyle. So that's always sort of how I viewed it. It took me a while to understand how to build that into my business successfully because I was never going to be using somebody else's artwork and saying like, hey, buy this product. Like that was never, ever going to happen. Yeah. And I struggled with that. And Laura was awesome because she could see that I was struggling and she was like, okay, let's do this. Like, let's work on this. But yeah, I think if you're new and you're struggling, focusing on the personal brand first is the number one thing you can do for yourself because it takes all the pressure off. And then you really are the entrepreneur. You're not just like an affiliate of something.
So true. When you take the pressure off of building that network marketing business and like just having it as something that you do, like it's not so...
I call it drinking the Kool-Aid. Yeah. Like that's what when you were talking before about people, when they start network marketing, they become really, just, I don't want to say obsessed. I say obsessed with like love.
I use that word.
But you really become like locked in and so identified with the company and building the business and getting to that ranking, to that next level and getting whatever leadership bonus and like you get tunnel vision. So you are an entrepreneur, but you have this tunnel vision. You're so fixated on one company and one way of doing things. And we have a lot of students that we work with and they come to us and I can tell on the first call, like they've drank the Kool-Aid real hard. They drank a lot of it. And then as we start to work with them, it's like that sort of cloud addiction, whatever it is, it kind of dissipates. And I think that, what Betsy was struggling with when she first started because she was doing health coaching and she just wanted products to recommend to her clients. If you're going to send them out to buy a supplement, might as well recommend your own, right? That notion of using a network marketing company as a product partner or treating it the same way you would treat any affiliate that is maybe not network marketing, that is still pretty new. But I really strongly see that is where network marketing is going. And the way that you make that work is you absolutely have to have a personal brand and create your own container, your own business, your own everything. And like, you can love on that company, but that's not me. You have to almost detach yourself from the idea that you're part of that company and that you're just somebody who uses the products and then container your lifestyle and show that. And then the people will come because they see, she's like me. She does yoga or she does this or whatever. Oh, and she uses that. Oh, I need to know more about it. Right. And it's a hard thing to do because you do drink the Kool-Aid and you get so involved in the rah-rah and all the things. Right. And so you gotta just, I think be mindful of that thing. And I think that's, like you said in the beginning, the industry is changing. Social media has changed the game for a lot of us entrepreneurs, whether you're network marketing or not. And I feel like there's so much opportunity now
with online marketing that, you know, whether you're a network marketer and you brand yourself or you have an idea and you want to bring it to market online, it's never been easier, I would say. Like, would you agree? Like, what are you finding?
Totally.
Yeah. I'd love to hear.
You know, in the old days, you had to have a brick and mortar business, right? Like you had to find your space, buy your computers, do all these things. Now we've got these amazing smartphones in our hand that are more powerful than, you know, most computers, to be completely honest. Like when it comes to social media and being able to, you know, you can shop right from an Instagram profile if you buy the right program. I mean, there's so many things that you can do now. And I think that creates two things, right? One, it creates opportunity. And every entrepreneur has a level playing field when they come in. We all have the same tools. It's how we choose to invest in those tools, what we choose to put our focus and our energy towards. So we all have this like level playing field. But at the same time, because it's such a low risk point of entry, you could start a business for, you know, less than $500 and, you know, your monthly auto order. That's fine. But what it does is it sort of is like gets people tipping their toe in the water, and they're going, oh, well, I'm only, you know, it's like, it's $100 a month, right? Like, you know, I'm not really invested in this. So if it doesn't work, it's only $100 a month. That's 2 dinners or something with my friends. Whereas if you had more skin in the game and more investment and you had a space that you were leasing and people that you had to pay, there's a lot more risk at that level.
Yeah.
So you're way more intentional when you have that greater risk or greater liability to your business. Whereas when it's really low price point and you can like play here and play there, you know, it's a double-edged sword. It's like, how bad do you want it? How bad do you want to grow this? How bad do you want to do it? And, you know, this idea of like free coaching and free programs and free this and free that, you know, there's a woman that we follow. She is a massive influencer online. And she sent out a newsletter a couple weeks ago, and she's like, everything I learned for free, but buy my $700 ticket to this event. And I kind of, you know, like the juxtaposition of that just really rankled me, because I was like, I used the word rankle. I hope I used that correctly, but I was like fired up when I read it, because
I was too. Yeah.
I was like, but you're misleading your audience. So the integrity, all of a sudden I was like, oh, really? So yeah, low point of entry is fantastic because it gives us all opportunity, but I think you really have to decide what fuels your soul and how much you want it, and then make the investments wisely from there.
And I think that what you pay for, you pay attention to. And
absolutely,
I remember hearing that with in a podcast with Sterling Griffin, and he talked about like, you know, when you have like when there's something you're offering and someone pays you for it, they're actually going to, and the more they pay for it, the more that they're going to pay attention to it. Any mentor or business coach that I've hired or whatever, like I've had to like, you know, like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this. But the value that I got out of it was tenfold. Like, so that has to take place. And I know you guys talk about this, and like, I know we talked a little bit about it, but the energetic exchange, and you talk about manifesting and all the woo-woo-y stuff. So let's touch on some of that, because I think that that's so important to know. Like a couple things, like one, you talked about making the decision. Like when you said, do you want to do a podcast? Yeah. When you make that decision or you make that investment, which I think is the same as making a decision, it's amazing what comes to you once you've energetically said, yes, I'm doing this, right? Like, so what are let's talk about that for a second, because I know that's important to you guys too.
Yeah. Well, it's one phrase that we use a lot, and it's kind of a catch-all for both you as the entrepreneur and also for your customers, is the transformation is in the transaction.
Yes. Yes.
So what you were talking about before with like, you know, when you expect your customers to pay for what your product is truly worth and not discount it and not give it away for free, they will have a bigger transformation. And we've seen that in our business. We launched a product and program last year, and we just did a beta test. And so we offered it at a low price point. And those people had some transformation. They did have some growth. Everyone had great results. Yeah. But then when we actually officially launched it and charged what it was truly worth, those people in that round, I mean, like the difference is night and day. They blew up their businesses way bigger, way faster, because they were that much more invested.
I love
and
that.
We see that for ourselves. Like what you said, you know, every time we have invested in ourselves, there is always that little moment where you're like, oh God, am I going to really, we're going to do this. Just hit enter on your computer, put that credit card number in it.
Yeah.
You can do it. Yeah. But that's appropriate, right? If the transformation is in the transaction, you know, part of where the manifesting and the woo-woo piece comes in for that is that, you know, you have to become the person who is worthy of the 6-figure, 7-figure business. You have to become that CEO. Like that's a personal transformation that has to come in on the inside first. And it's about mindset and your belief. And then you build the brand and the business out around that. And back in the old days, like what Betsy was saying with brick and mortar businesses, you know, even now, like if you wanted to open up, you know, a Tim Hortons or something, or a McDonald's, like a McDonald's is like $1 million.
Oh yeah.
You have to be really invested and work really hard, and it will be 10 years before you start actually turning a profit.
Yeah.
You got to be like mindset wise and belief level is like 110% to do that, because you got a lot of skin in the game. So, you know, it's great with network marketing or any business, even if it's not network marketing, you can start at a low entry point. But know that in order for you to keep leveling up, you are eventually going to have to invest in yourself. And the transformation will happen for you, but it will also then happen for your clients when you are truly charging what you're worth. Because they will have a transformation, and then that contributes back to your business. And it becomes that, again, that open energy exchange.
I love that. And it's so true.
And just to piggyback on that, another thing is so many new entrepreneurs, you know, the transformations in the transaction for the people that purchase your product, you know, they have the energetic exchange, but you have to be willing to receive on your end. And money, because it loves a purpose and it has an energy, like money is just energy. So if you're able to pay yourself, right, you take care of your business and then you start paying yourself. That's when the true transformation happens in a business, when you get paid. Because all of a sudden, it no longer feels like this abstract thing. All of a sudden, you have energy in your business. You have money in your business, but you have more of like a higher vibrational energy that will then propel you to the next level. And the more money you have, the easier it is for you to get your message out there. The easier it is to expand your reach. And so if you look at it from a transformation as the transformations in the transaction, like honoring yourself, being willing to receive the money, having some place where you can take money in. How many people we talk to that have no way to accept money from customers? It shocks me.
Like
it shocks me. But it's an energetic exchange.
Like, girlfriend, we got to build that website. You need a container right now.
PayPal. Everybody needs PayPal. And so it's like, it's really shifting into that mindset of I'm willing to receive. And then that's where the transformation also happens. Because people think like, you know, I'm going to sit and I'm going to manifest. I'm going to sit in my little lotus pose and I'm just going to wait for the universe to hand it to me.
And wait for it to come.
The universe doesn't make it rain in the traditional sense. You have to have a bank account. You have to have some place you can bring it in. You have to take action towards getting the next step. So it's, the transformation.
It includes setting up your accounting, setting up, you know, the bank account, setting up the business cards, like being that intentional entrepreneur. My husband and I actually just talked about this the other day about setting up, you know, getting ready because we have 4 businesses between the 2 of us, and 2 of them are brand new. And it's like, okay, we need to get ready and prepared to receive, you know, what we know is coming through the creation of these businesses. So we need to get, like, my second business I don't have a specific accountant for that yet. I need to make sure I get the specific bank account set up and all the pieces and parts, because I'm expecting it to, you know, be successful. And so sometimes you have to put those things in place. And I think a lot of times as a new entrepreneur, and especially in network marketing, we don't do that because, like you said, you know, there's not a big investment. We're not taking it that seriously. And then we wonder why we're not making money. It's like, well, there's no intentions behind that. Right.
Oh, yeah. We have fielded that question so many times. It's like, people will say to us, do I really need a business bank account? I don't really have to incorporate, do I? I don't. What do you mean taxes? What do you mean I have to pay tax? I'm like, and it happens on all levels of online entrepreneurship, but especially with network marketers who are used to, and I say this with love, they've actually kind of been operating like employees. Like they're calling themselves an entrepreneur, but they actually have kind of an employee mindset around their money, because they're like, well, I'll just post on social media and people will buy my thing, and then the company will give me my commission check. Yeah. Done. And they don't think to the next level of actually building out their own brand. Yeah, you do need to incorporate. Yeah. In some capacity, you know, regardless
and
of whatever.
Put money away for the government, because
you need to have a bank account, and you need to be setting aside money for taxes, and you need to pay yourself, and you need to think about what payroll source deductions look like, and like all the things.
All the stuff.
Yeah.
And one of the things, and let's talk about this because I know you've got money mindset on here. You know, a lot of times people, like I know myself, this is something I fell into where I started making a lot of money, and my money mindset is I'm not the person who has money. So as the money was rolling in, I was making it rain for all the things that I wanted in my life. And as fast as it was coming in, it was going out. So how do you teach, like with the, like, you know, when you have clients who come in who, you know, have those money mindset blocks, or those things that are, you know, maybe they can make money, but they can't keep it, or they keep running into the same cycles. Like, what are your thoughts on that? And how do you kind of work through some of those things?
Do you want to talk about?
I had major money mindset issues.
Yeah.
Like I came in, I mean, I'm the queen of, I mean, I built $7 million accounts, like doing $7 million a year selling $2 belts. Okay. So I can make money, but I make money for other people. That was my story coming into entrepreneurship. And I was like, you know, I can do all these things, but I have nowhere to put it. I didn't have the bank account set up the right way with my health coaching practice. So for me, it was always like, there was never enough, even if there was enough. I was so busy holding on to it because I was like, it's mine. But the reality of it is money loves a purpose. Yeah. Money needs to know where it's going. It needs intention. And the more Laura and I have been able to work together, I mean, she's a saint for putting up with some of my lack mindset and scarcity mindset issues. Like I once called her and I was like, oh my God, my wild orange oil is out. And it's like, I'm holding on to it. Like I'm going to run out, and it's $10 to buy a new one. Like that's how scared I was to spend money on myself, and everything went to the business.
Sidebar, wild orange is an oil for abundance and manifesting, which is hilarious to me.
Where is it? I need it.
Yeah.
I love it.
So it's really funny. Like for me, that was a real shift in that moment, because it's like she said, it's the oil of abundance. I'm using it as part of my manifesting practice. And here I am afraid to use it and allow it to support me in the way that it's meant to support me, because I was afraid of $10. So it's really, you know, you really do have to do the deeper work. Like this is where money mindset shifts happen. You actually have to do the work. You have to be willing to look at the things that are tripping you up and ask yourself, where is this coming from? And it's not like, oh, I really want that, it's too expensive. It's, oh, I really want that, how can I afford this? If you keep saying I can't afford something, you will start saying that for things like $10 bottles of wild orange essential oil. And you totally can afford it. So it's really shifting the conversation and just being willing to look at what is in front of you and question where that thought comes from. That's really the root for me. Always questioning.
Awareness. I'm a big fan of just being aware of your thoughts, feelings, everything that's going on within you, you know, always knowing, like when you're feeling that feeling, like catch yourself and go, why do I feel this way? Question it. And come up. Now, Laura, what about you? Do you have money mindset triggers or blocks?
For me, I'm glad that I shifted into this mindset really early in my network marketing business, but I really started, I think because I started out using the products and I love them so much. And I was like, even if I never made a penny, I'm still going to order this amount of product every month because I'm literally using it every day. So that's a common thing with a lot of new entrepreneurs is they look at their expenses as this negative thing, like they're bleeding money. It's money that's leaving. And you really have to reshift that. You know, if you are in network marketing, I really hope that you genuinely love your product so much that you would use it every single day, even if you weren't making a penny from it. Yeah. So in that sense, you should be, I mean, it is still an expense. It is money going out, but you need to reframe that mindset about that money and not look at it, because an expense is like expensive, right? Those two words are similar, and people, it gets lodged in your brain that that's a negative thing. And then with expenses just generally in your business, I mean, we are constantly, you know, I'm always going through the books and looking at what are we spending money on? What can we cut? Not because I'm trying to be in a lack mindset, but because I want to feel good about the money that's leaving me. You know, I'll use the example, like I just moved, I manifested this new house and we moved here because I wanted my daughter, who's 3, to go to a private school. So that chunk of money that comes out of my bank account every single month on the first of the month, I love that money leaves me every month. I genuinely love that money leaves my bank account because it makes her happy. She loves her school. It makes me happy. I have time to be home and do my business. And so like, I don't look at that as a negative thing. So I try to look at all of the expenses in our business is like, do I really love what that thing is doing for me? If yes, great. Away you go, money. Do your magical work in the world. And if I'm not feeling good about where that money's going, we need to check that and have awareness. And maybe that money needs to get redirected somewhere else.
Oh, I love that. That's really great advice, is really thinking about that as the money's leaving, is like, do I feel good about this? And not seeing expense. We've taken the word expensive out of our vocabulary and, you know, prioritize, you know, it's like right now that's not a priority. Right now we're going to be focusing on this, but in future we're going to relook at that, you know, so that it's not always like, oh no, that's too expensive. Cause you know, I grew up with that language in my world. And that's, you know, it's definitely played a part in the way that I handle money and the way that I think about money, and obviously making a lot of changes and stuff on that. I love that. Okay. So I want to talk about, I'm just going to shift gears a little bit because there's a question on here that I really want to ask about. This is now going on the woo-woo-y stuff, but what on earth does the moon have to do with growing a business? I love that you put that in here.
Oh man, you just opened Pandora's box.
Let's do it. I love it. Enough of this money stuff. Let's talk about the moon and the universe and the energies, and let's do it.
Okay. So a little bit of a backstory. I was born under a full moon and I had a bald head until I was 3 years old. So my nickname growing up was Betsy Moon. And my family, like to this day, when my sisters call, they're like, hey, Betsy Moon, what's up? Like, I mean, I hated it in high school, but you know, you grow into things over time. So I've always been slightly obsessed with the moon and the cycles of the moon, and your body is 84% water. The moon has its own energy, its gravitational pull. And as it moves around the earth, it changes tides. It changes how much water comes to the surface and how your vegetables grow. I've been gardening by the moon for about 5 years now with massive results. And so over time, I was just like, how can we use this in our business? So one of the healing modalities when we were starting, I had to heal my intuition. I started really simple. It was new moon manifesting. And then it became new moon manifesting and full moon manifesting. And then I kept seeing all these results happening. But I also noticed my energy was shifting at different times. And so for me, it just became, okay, well, let's dive a little bit deeper. And you can use every phase of the moon. Each phase of the moon has its own energy to it. Part of it is divine feminine energy. Part of it is masculine energy. So there's times when you really want to be taking action in your business. There's other times when you really want to be receiving. So really tapping into the collective consciousness of the universe. And so what we do is we use the moon and use it as a tool, like a time clock almost, and the energy of each phase to either launch a new product, start talking about something, you know, really take a step back and allow our ideas to flower and blossom, release the stuff that's not working, go deeper inside. So for me, the moon is just like everything.
I think of it as kind of like an energetic scheduler. Your body. And I think that, you know, on social media especially, there has really been this, you know, our business is Lucious hustle, but, you know, to us, we've tried to really redefine the word hustle. Like it is, action taking, yes, but it's that divine masculine energy. And then the Lucious is the divine feminine, and you need both. You can't be one or the other. You absolutely need those two things to harmonize in order to be really successful in your business and have a lifestyle that allows you to live and do all the things you want and not always be grind in your work. And I think the hustle, in a very wounded masculine way, like kind of Wolf of Wall Street, money, greedy, has been very popularized on social media. And so a lot of new entrepreneurs think that if they're not always hustling all the time, they will not make money. And that is really, it's funny because we've started this conversation in network marketing. That's how I felt in the beginning of my network marketing business. I felt like if I wasn't always reaching out, you know, pushing, posting 5 times a day, I was never going to make money. And I was actually operating in that wounded masculine zone, and I wasn't allowing myself to be in the feminine, which is like receiving money. And it created a lot of struggle, and it creates burnout. You can't operate like that all the time. So when we, you know, plan everything in our business around the phases of the moon, it gives us that space to, yes, there are times when we are high vibe and ready to take action. We're like, ready to rock. Let's do this thing. That's that divine masculine. And then there are other times when it's like, okay, let's sit back, let's rest and restore, and let's like receive. And that is important. You need to do that if you're going to actually build a business you can work at for the rest of your life.
They need an app for that, like an app that reminds you, okay, so this is the phase of the moon that's happening right now. This is what you should be doing or not doing.
Yeah.
There needs to be an app for that. I love that. And I think the hustle thing, like when I think of hustle, and maybe it's because I'm in the entrepreneur space, but I want to hustle in the time that I give my business. Like when I think of hustling, I'm not hustling all the time. I'm hustling in the moments that I am being intentional in my business. So if I'm working because the kids are at school and I've got between 9:30 and 3:30 to get things, I'll hustle in that time so that I don't have to hustle at in the evenings and on weekends and those kinds of things. So it's like, hustle needs to be a word that we use it doesn't mean all the time. It just means like get your shit done in the time that you've got, and so that you can enjoy life, right? And enjoy the kids and enjoy all the stuff.
Yeah.
I love that. And so the next question is, and this kind of ties into this, how can sales be soulful? Because you mentioned about the whole soul thing. So let's talk about that soulful. How does sales be soulful? How can we become those money magnets through that energetic vibe that's going on? Who wants to tackle that one?
I can tackle that one. I'll start.
You start.
One of the number one things that we hear from people is there's a fear around sales. People are constantly asking us, like, how can I reach more customers? How can I get more customers? How can I close more sales? How do I convert my followers into paying customers? So the hiccup is happening in that, where that connection around the sale, that's where the hiccup is. And also the other problem that we see that's tied to that is every single student we've ever had come to us, we have ended up raising their prices. And they make more sales after they've raised their prices.
Yes.
And so they've been operating in this zone of giving too much away at too low a price point, which is very energetically depleting.
Yes.
And they do that because they are actually operating in the wounded feminine. So when you're in your wounded feminine energy, I always think of someone like my mom when she was mad at me. When I was a kid, she'd be like, I am bending over backwards for you kids. She would always say that. And like, that's what I feel like when you're wounded feminine, you're just bending over backwards way too much for everybody, giving, not receiving, and trying to justify. I think what happens is women are trying to justify their worth in receiving the money. So they think if I give more, then I'll be worthy. If I lower that price, if I offer a BOGO, if I give you a discount, if I offer to pay free shipping, if I give, then I will be worthy of receiving that little bit of commission.
Yeah.
At the end of the day. And they end up in the wounded feminine because they're actually trying to avoid the wounded masculine. The wounded masculine is what they are afraid of. They're afraid of being seen by their friends and their peers as being greedy, self-serving, controlling, aggressive, right? Like that Leonardo DiCaprio, Wolf of Wall Street. They don't want to be that. So they flop to the other side and be overly giving, and they end up undercutting themselves and not making any money. So the solution is to actually step into your divine feminine and your divine masculine, but really your divine feminine, because divine feminine is very nurturing, but she's also exceptionally empowered. She is powerful. When you think of a woman who's very empowered, like, you can be very nurturing. You can be Oprah. You can be very giving and very nurturing and still be a billionaire. Yeah, you can be Beyonce, any number of other billionaire women entrepreneurs. Sarah Blakely, I love her, right? You can give and nurture, but still receive and really stand in like, I am worth the $1 billion. Thank you.
Yes. I earned this. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a respect for yourself too, right?
Yes. Knowing your worth
all the time. You got it. Yeah. It's that. And I mean, here's the thing for those who are listening, we've all been there. Like, I know I've been there in my own business too, where I felt like I had to give because I'm not worthy. And it's that awkward thing, but you have to learn and grow through that, and even in the courses and things that I've offered, looking back, I've had some of my more successful masterminds and groups have been the ones that I've, charged more for, because the value is there. Like we started in the beginning, the value is there, and I show up in a different way and they show up in a different way. And it's just more empowering for all of us, not just the person receiving. Right. So I think that's good. So how can a person start a business? So, because I know a lot of people are on here right now and they have network marketing businesses. Some of them probably even have jobs on top of that, but they have this burning desire and this want to do something more, maybe start a business so they can get out of their full-time, 9 to 5, so they can just be the entrepreneur. And they have no money. They just have the idea. Like I know how I did that personally, but how would you, recommend that they start this business, this soulful business that they have, but yet they have nothing to invest?
So I started this way. So when we started the podcast, we had like $14 for me to pay for our hosting was a lot. I'm not going to lie. Like I had nothing. I was at home with my parents. I was taking care of my dad who had Alzheimer's. I had quit my job. Well, it was sort of like a mutual parting of ways with my job in New York City. So like I had no income coming in other than the freelancing that I was doing that was just paying my bills and my health coaching. And like when I look back, I honestly, sometimes I'm sort of shocked at myself because I gave up everything to do this. And my uncle and I were talking about this at dinner just a couple nights ago. He was here for Thanksgiving and he said, like, how do you describe, like, what did you do to become so successful? And I was sitting there and I was like, well, I did this, and this. And he's like, no. Like, what was it that you did that made you so successful? And I said, honestly, I was like, I just stepped outside my comfort zone, but did it in a way that I felt safe, did it in a way that I still felt protected. So like for me, I knew that I wanted to build what we're building right now. I knew that. I had no idea how I was going to do it. So I started with the one thing that didn't feel scary, which was just talking. Didn't want anyone to see me. I didn't want to be on video. Didn't want to be on Instagram. But I was like, I can talk. I don't want to write a blog post. I'll just talk. And when that got easy, then Laura's like, we got to do video. And we would do it in our Facebook group. I wouldn't do it publicly. And so like every step along the way, like whether or not you have money to invest in yourself or not, there's so many tools with social media in particular where you can build a brand. If you have a smartphone, you have everything in your power right now. It's just like making small steps, making conscious decisions of like what feels good, what doesn't feel good. Because that's the other thing. Like if you are afraid of video for your life, don't get on a video because everybody else is doing it. Either write a blog post, focus on your photography and your Instagram content. Microblogging is what Instagram is. It's an incredible platform storytelling wise. Start with what feels really good to you because people are going to pick up on that energy. If you're sitting in fear, you're sitting in lack and scarcity, and it's just going to resonate with your audience that you are afraid. Whereas if you're open and you're luscious and lighthearted and you're coming from a place of your divine feminine heart-centered energy, then you're just going to blow up and people are going to be like, where have you been all my life? But you got to talk. You kind of got to put yourself out there.
You got to show up, right?
Yeah, you have to show up.
So they can find you, right? And that's the thing. And I would say like, yes, maybe live video, is scary, super scary to you, and you don't want to do that. But I guarantee you when you start picking up and doing the things that does feel good to you and does flow, you will find that you'll start to maybe want to do some of those things because you're starting to find your groove and you start to see that people do trust what you're saying. And it is, you have people who are finding you and agreeing with you and liking you. And then you get the courage to kind of take on the other things that maybe seem scary. So I often find fear is like a compass. Like if something is super scary for you, there's something to explore there and to try. And I guarantee you when you put yourself through that, you'll realize it wasn't as scary and you'll actually gain something from it. So I love that. So you're saying basically do what you can with what you've got. So start a podcast, for $14 a month, if that's what you need to do. Use free tools like Canva to create your podcast cover. Like it doesn't have to be perfect. To get it up there, right?
Yeah, I
we use
agree.
Canva now.
Yeah,
we still use it for like YouTube videos and overlays. And there's so much you can do with programs like that now that 5 years ago I had to do everything in Photoshop and it was time consuming. You don't need that now.
No, I'm a graphic designer. I have Illustrator, Photoshop. I have all InDesign. I have them all, and I still use Canva.
So me too.
It's just easier and it's quicker for me and I can just do and do what I need to do and away I go, so. Yeah. And there's so many free resources, and even podcasting, there are free resources to get podcasts up and running without even having to pay. You get so much time for free. Like you can do those things if you really wanted to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I love it. Awesome. You guys is, just, on that train of, somebody having the idea, really wanting to do something, like what are some, final pieces of advice that you can give to them to say, like if something's nagging at you, because that's how my business started. It was just something, and it was an idea that I came up with one day reading a book going like, hey, why couldn't I do something like this? And that idea nagged at me for 2 years. And I actually feel like I lost 2 years of time because I felt like I needed to be a certain level or be a certain person before I could put myself out there. And looking back, I feel like that was a huge mistake because I feel like I missed a window of opportunity that I could have been a lot farther ahead right now. So for that person who's sitting there, who's got this idea, doesn't know the first thing about starting a business, but it's nagging at them, what would be your first, few pieces of advice for that person to get started?
Well, for me, I mean, it sounds so simple, but just gotta rip that Band-Aid off. You just gotta do it. And there are a million excuses that will slip into your mind that all seem logical and rational reasons why you should not take action. When I started my network marketing business, I was 32 weeks pregnant. And I was at that time working full-time as a pediatric nurse. I was working 12-hour shifts, days, nights, weekends, the works. I was so burnt out. And I had been seeking, like in my heart, a way to be able to be home and be with my daughter, still make an income. I like working. I'm a very independent person. I like being interacting with people. I didn't really want to be a stay-at-home mom per se. Like my daughter goes to school and I love that she goes to school. I also love that I have the freedom to take off a Friday and pull her out if I want to, but I wanted to work, but I didn't want to work shift work. And so at that exact same time, 32 weeks pregnant, where we live, it's like all about the oil industry, and we were in a massive recession. So my hubby lost his job. Tens of thousands of people were losing their jobs all over the place. I mean, it was a really dark time for everyone in our city and our province. And it was a dark time for us. I mean, he was unemployed for 7 months that year and I was on mat leave. And so we were living off of, basically the income we were getting was about $900 bi-weekly. And I was spending like a couple hundred of that on my auto order for my network marketing business. Like if you do the math on that, that's actually pretty ridiculous when you think about it. The percentages are a little bit ugly there. But I really believed in what I was doing. And I'm going to make this happen. Like if I have to make adjustments, like what you said before, reprioritize. I'm not going to call anything expensive, but I'm going to reprioritize what I'm putting my money energy towards so I can make this business happen, because I really believe that this is the key to leading me somewhere. And it absolutely was. So it does mean that, I don't like using the word sacrifice, but you do have to reprioritize things. I'll be honest, for a couple of years in my business, I did not watch TV.
Oh gosh, no. Yeah.
I had my daughter home with me. I couldn't afford for her to go to childcare. So she was home with me. So I was the nap time hustler. I got up at 5 a.m. and I got a couple hours of work done before she woke up. If I was lucky, if she napped, I would get work done then. And then I would get work done after she went to bed. And that meant no TV for me. But hey, that's why God made Netflix. I am all caught up on The Crown now and Downton Abbey, so we're good. And I have this space because I have a successful business. I can take the evening off and watch Outlander. An entire season if I want to. That's okay. So understanding that you can reprioritize things, shift things out of your life to make space for what you need to get done right now, and they can come back in. It's not forever. My family legit got store-bought cookies for 2 years because there was no baking happening in this house.
My kids still do.
Tough luck. Like there were little adjustments that I made here and there to my time, my energy, my money to make it happen. And you would be surprised how even just those little shifts it's enough to move the needle forward and get you going, create that engine start of momentum. And then eventually, when you have that successful business, you can invite some of those things back into your life. You have built the space for them and you have a business that financially supports you from underneath.
I love that. And I made a lot of those exact same sacrifices because I started my business when my youngest was 4.5 weeks old, my network marketing business. And a lot of those nap time hustles, typing while breastfeeding, all of those things to make it work. And in this particular business, this was just like, I don't really know what I'm doing, but the the desire to do something was so strong that I just had to like take a step, build the Facebook page, put the logo together, put myself out there, do the first video, make all the mistakes, and then finally hiring the mentor to say, okay, I have this thing, I'm trying, it's not working. How can you help me? And then finally seeing like the pieces come together and just trusting in the intuition that I had something that was worthy, that was worth to put out there,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Betsy, do you have any comments or final thoughts on that?
Yeah, there really is never a perfect moment.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody's listening to this and they're waiting for the perfect moment, we're all three of us, we're prime examples. Like, I mean, I was taking care of my dad with Alzheimer's. I was at home. I had zero money. Like I could have waited 6 months and got my freelancing up and running and my health coaching up and running. But there was something inside of me that was like, okay, I need to do this. I'm one of those type A personalities where if I have the idea and I don't jump on it, it's probably not going to happen, which is why we launched our podcast in 2 weeks that set the course for this amazing journey and what we created. That like the tiniest steps, like that tiny commitment to yourself is really what drives your business. And, I totally get that idea. Like I wasted 2 years, thinking and nudging, and it wasn't the right time. It really wasn't the right time for you. I don't think. Like, I think when the time is right, the confidence is there. You just know, and it's so easy to take that step. And, you could have struggled for 2 years and not gotten anywhere and maybe given up. So I think, divine timing is real to me. Our soul contracts are real. We just have to pick the moment, activate them, take a step, and really trust the process. And I love the process. So I give up everything. I would give up everything to keep doing it.
You have to literally fall in love with the process, because the process is like, you can't just fall in love with the end goal. Because to be honest, as an entrepreneur, there really is no end goal. Like it's just always evolving and moving, right? And so it's falling in love with building the website and doing the videos and seeing, the reactions and putting something out there. And like programs I put out there that have totally failed, programs that I put out there that have been great, hiring the mentors, learning the things, right? It's all part of the journey. And you have to love it all. And one of the things I'm going to say, and I noticed that you and I both have the same mug, the Ignite Your Soul, right?
Yeah.
Amber Lillystrom, who is one of my mentors and coaches. And she has the statement that if the dream is in you, it's for you. And you need to, if you have the urge and the push and the motivation to do something, there's a reason you were given that thought, that idea. And so don't try and stuff it down because you're afraid, explore, see, expand, look into it, talk about it, and see what comes up for you. And that's where you guys come in. So you guys actually, this is what you do, right? So you help. So you guys have the Facebook page, the Lucious Hustle, right? And the Instagram, Lucious Hustle, luscious.hustle. And you have a website. Do you, is it, what's your website?
www.lucioushustle.com. We're basically Lucious Hustle everywhere now.
Yeah, we have a Facebook group for our Luscious Hustlers, which is Lucious Hustle Insiders. We are pretty much Lucious Hustle everywhere.
Just look up Lucious Hustle. You're going to find Laura and Betsy Milne. And so within that, you help people become entrepreneurs. You help them with their ideas, explore all the things, grow the stuff, get their messaging, their mission out there, right?
Yeah. It's really like the transformational brand and business coaching. It's we say like, spiritual practices meet savvy business strategy. It's that feminine, that masculine coming together. That's what Lucious Hustle is. And that's what we teach, because it does need to be that balance of those two things so that you feel really in harmony energetically with yourself personally, and then also with the work that you're putting out in the world. And that's how you manifest, right? When you nail down those two components really solid, you will start attracting money in like a badass.
I love that. And I just it's funny because I just did a thing on the science of goal achieving, which was all about, the laws, the universal laws, the cause and effect and all that. And one of the things that people were really mostly shocked about was about, it's not just about being a good person and putting yourself out there and being nice to people. You also have to do that for yourself. You have to be in alignment with yourself. You have to listen and trust yourself. You have to do the things that make you happy. It's not just about, because when you're not in alignment with yourself and not doing the things that you really truly want to do, you're not being true to yourself, right? And when you're not being true to yourself, you're putting that that can have a negative boomerang effect on you. So you have to be in alignment in all different areas. And I think most people don't look at how they're treating themselves and thinking about themselves and looking at their own goals and aspirations as part of being a good person in the world, right? To attract good things to them. So it's all part of the thing. I love this, you guys. Is there anything else that you want to share before we go? Like there's so much great information here. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else. I know we talked about the personal brand, which I think that's a big thing right now. Everybody's, getting into that. It seems to be like a trendy thing, like having that brand. But is there anything else, any top tips that you want to end out with before we wrap up? I think that
I feel like we've covered so much, and I just want to say thank you so much for having us on the podcast today, because this has just been amazing, and we love supporting other entrepreneurs that are doing the work, that are putting themselves out there. So
I love it. No, I'm so glad you guys reached out. And I still think this is like an energetic sign. Like my husband brought me this coffee while we were talking. So it's not like I even went hey,
chose the mug.
He chose the mug and brought it to me. And you were sipping your coffee and I was like, or your tea. And I'm like, wait a minute, that looks kind of like the same mug. And then you lift up, I'm like, oh my God, it's the same mug.
Yeah.
The universe is trying to tell us something. I don't know.
Totally.
We're soulful entrepreneurs, and shout out to Amber Lillystrom. I love it. Okay, you guys, thank you so much. This was wonderful. I'm going to put all your places and spaces in the show notes. It will go on my Instagram profile. We're going to share you with the world. You guys have been wonderful, and I love that. And I'm a big, I'm into the crystals, the moon phases, all the things. So I'm happy to learn about all of these things, and I know my audience is too. So thank you guys so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much.